we are going to talk about longevity. Longevity matlab apna lifespan. So in the last webinar, in the last week, we talked about कि दुनिया में 5 ऐसे प्रदेश हैं. There are 5 areas, 5 zones in the entire globe which are called blue zones. Blue zones are areas where people and considerable amount of people, number of people who are living longer than the usual lifespan of the average lifespan of that region and also the world. So ज़्यादा समय लोग वहां पर जीते हैं. So longevity is a subject of a lot of interest to the researchers and to the scientific world right now. Everybody is looking at how you can increase the lifespan of human beings. Medical world or the health industry has grown technologically, a lot of research. So there is a lot of interest in the scientific world कि लोगों की lifespan को और कैसे हम लोग ज़्यादा करें. If you really look at the lifespan of people, let's say 1920s or 30s and 40s and 50s. So every 10 years, the lifespan of people keep on increasing, or rather, it kept on increasing based on better, research, better, findings, and better healthcare facilities that were available to people. So today, in this webinar, it's an absolutely free webinar, and we'll try to mix it up with English and thoda kuch Hindi mein bhi baat karenge so that you will be able to understand it better. And this is our commitment at Velocity Genetics to ensure that people are living healthier, happier, and also longer using the technologies that are available today. And today, to conduct this webinar, we have a very, very distinguished personality. He is a urologist and he is a surgeon, being serving in the medical field for last 37 years in Karnataka, in Mumbai, Maharashtra, and various other parts of India. He is widely traveled across the world. He is, I would say, an academician and a scholar, interested in understanding the scientific research of, latest scientific research and dwelling into various new subjects. So we have Dr. Nikhil Baljekar with us. So I'd like to, welcome him on behalf of everybody. Dr. Nikhil Baljekar, warm welcome to you. Dr. Nikhil also happens to be the medical advisory board member of Velocity Genetics. So in the last 7 years, we have interacted with him on various occasions, and he's been always, ready to come forward and then do a lot of, education, training, scientific symposiums for our people, for our clients, for our, I would say, fans of Velocity Genetics. So, Dr. Nikhil Baljekar, just unmute yourself and a warm welcome to you. So, just a curious question. Just a curious question before we get into the PowerPoint presentation and the discussion today. What interests you to look into longevity? What's that one factor makes you interested in looking at that subject?
Well, actually, that I've been associated with your company, and that I'm interested in basically DNA-based, whatever DNA-based things, because, it's like the cell. If you see the cell, it is just like the universe. There are atoms, and then there are floating, if you see the solar system, you'll have a sun and the planets. And if you see an atom, you have a nucleus, and then you have the electrons. So the microcosm and the macrocosm are similar, which is somewhat what the Gita says and what the Hindu spirituality says. So actually what has happened is, from the macro to the micro, our system, that is modern medicine, is macro. It tries to always give a treatment which fits everybody, tries to fit the treatment to everybody, you see. Whereas all the alternate systems, especially Indian systems, whether it is homeopathy, other systems, try to fit the treatment to the patient. Now, the link between this I found is the DNA.
Okay.
So because the DNA is which is the basic unit of a person, of anything. And therefore, if you were to target anything towards the DNA, you would automatically tailor the treatment to the person.
Okay, good. So
From this came the other things, like we were talking about pharmacogenomics, nutrigenomics you're already doing. So longevity was a natural kind of, in the natural flow of all this, because longevity is also very intricately related to DNA.
All right. So that's puts things in perspective. So what we're going to do is that we have people from all over India who have joined us from different linguistic backgrounds. So we are going to keep it in English for the time being, and क्योंकि थोड़े technical शब्द हैं, technical terminologies हैं, तो हिंदी English use करेंगे. लेकिन at the end of this presentation and the discussion, we will open up for question and answers. तो तब तक आपके अगर कुछ questions है उसको note कर लीजिएगा. The comment box is open. You can also chat there. But I would rather request you to keep the questions at the end, so we can get started, and then we will dwell into a very, very scientific, research based webinar. This इसमें motivation नहीं है, इसमें fiction नहीं है. It's all fact based, research based. So let's get started. Dr. Nikhil Baljekar, the screen is yours. So here is your presentation. So let's get started.
Yeah, thank you, Stan. First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts. So let's start with the first slide. Now, I would like to just tell you how I'm going to conduct this lecture, because it's a very complicated and scientific lecture. I will be trying to keep the science to its minimum and try to summarize after each portion of the lecture what I want to say as a take-home message. I think that works better, because ultimately those people who are spending the time listening to me should get some take-home message which is easy, in easy language to understand and then put in practice. I am a very practical man. I like to put everything into practice. Ultimately, only knowing theory is of no use unless you can put it into day-to-day life and change your life as it were from today. So let's start with the first slide, please. So basically, what is longevity? Longevity is the word which is otherwise used called lifespan. मतलब आप कितने साल जी सकते हो, इसका मतलब है लॉन्जेविटी. लेकिन जो स्टैन ने लास्ट टाइम लेक्चर लिया था, जो ब्लू जोन्स है, वहां पे लोग ज्यादा टाइम तक जीते हैं. मतलब एवरेज लाइफ उनका 90 प्लस 100 प्लस होता है. लेकिन अगर आप उनको देखेंगे तो वो बूढ़े लगते हैं, बहुत बूढ़े लगते हैं. उनका जीवन 100 साल है, लेकिन 100 साल में उनका मूवमेंट अब ऐसा नहीं है, वो 100 साल के आदमी जैसा ही मूवमेंट है. तो नॉर्मली ये ब्लू जोन्स में लोग ज्यादा देर तक जिंदा रहते हैं, लेकिन दे आर लाइक 100-year-old पीपल. What we are talking over here is, at the age of 100, you will be like a 75-year-old. Or at the age of 75, you will be like a 55-year-old. This is what we are trying to say. The difference between blue zone, where people live longer, and longevity is that in longevity, your biological age is much lesser than the chronological age. So what do we mean by age? Chronological मतलब जो आपके बर्थ सर्टिफिकेट पे जो तारीख है वहां से जो एज बनता है उसको क्रोनोलॉजिकल बोलते हैं. बायोलॉजिकल एज इज आपका जो बॉडी का हेल्थ है. सो somebody can be 60 years old, लेकिन बायोलॉजिकली उनका एज कुड बी 45 or 50. And today it is possible to measure the biological age with a handheld device which can test the DNA, and from the DNA it can make out what is the biological age. Emotional age is somebody who's emotional or psychologically. So if you see, there are some people who are old, but they try to dress up in flashy clothes and try to act very young. So they feel emotionally they are never grown, they're still teenagers. You see, so it makes them look funny to other people who feel that they should behave their age. So emotional age is one. Chronological age is the birth certificate age, and the biological age is what we are concerned with in our presentation today. So the point of this presentation is, how can you slow down aging? First of all, can you slow down aging? And if you can, how can you do it in practical ways, which you can do day to day? And in fact, after this lecture, you can easily do it from tomorrow. So I'll be giving you some very simple nuskas, or what do you call it, treatments, or something which you can try at home without spending any money, and probably you can benefit. Now there are trees in some of the areas in US, which they have found have lived for 400 years. Even in India, if you see, there is the great banyan tree in Calcutta, which is there for more than many centuries, and it is only growing. There are whales which can live up to 200 and 400 years. Tortoise, which can live between 100 to 200 years. Jellyfish, which can live. So already in nature, there exist other organs or animals or whatever which can live for over 100 years. So why not humans? Now, actually, it is said that human beings can actually live up to between 120 to 150 years. But because of various stress and various toxins which we are exposed to in our day-to-day life, we are not getting the full quota of our years, and we tend to normal. Now today the age is anywhere between 75 to 85, depending on which part of the earth you are in. As last time Stan said that in some areas like Singapore, Australia, it is going towards 80, 85, whereas in our country it is more between 70 and 75. But it is still much better than what it was, say 40, 50 years ago, which was in the early 30s, and then it was later on in the early 50s. But today it is like in the early 70s. Next slide, please. So what is it that causes aging? Now, first of all, you have to understand, आपके ध्यान में ये आना चाहिए, aging was thought to be inevitable. Inevitable मतलब वो होना ही है, मतलब हमारा डेस्टिनी है, जो बोलते हैं ना कर्मा है. Okay, लेकिन that is not true. Okay. Another thing was, as a doctor, when we have to fill the death certificate of an old person, we are not allowed to put a cause of death is old age. We are not allowed. We had to write cardiorespiratory failure or some other cause. Though it was known that person died of old age. Now, if you see, the relatives say, "हाँ, उम्र हो गई थी, गुजर गए," which is actually true. That age is a cause of death. Why? Because age is a disease like any other disease. Like you have heart disease, like you have cancer, like you have blood pressure, like you have whatever. Age is also a disease. And what is it? Why is it a disease? Because it is the fountainhead of all other diseases. मतलब आपकी उम्र जैसे होती है, बढ़ती है, वैसे आपको लाइफस्टाइल रिलेटेड डिसीजेस, जो आपके रहन सहन की वजह से जो आपको तकलीफ होगी, जैसे ब्लड प्रेशर होना, डायबिटीज होना, वेट का प्रॉब्लम होना, जोड़ों का दर्द होना, जो भी हो, जो these are all age related diseases, which means if theoretically we were to conquer age, we can conquer all these diseases, isn't it? Because it is the root from where the tree of all the other diseases happen. So if you can treat the root, then the plant itself will get treated. So if it is possible to treat aging like any other disease, then all diseases arising out of aging are automatically treated. This is the point of this presentation, that it is possible to treat aging. So the take-home message of this first part of the presentation is, please understand aging is a disease, and therefore, like any other disease, it is treatable. And if you were to treat aging, then all other diseases arising as a result of aging get automatically treated. Now, what are the things that we could do with aging? Can we stop aging? Can we reverse aging? Can we slow down aging? As of today, whatever research is going on in various kinds of organisms, from roundworms to mice to larger animals, even monkeys, it is possible to slow down aging. Definitely possible to slow down aging. However, it is not yet possible to stop aging or reverse aging. Reverse means you actually will become younger if you take the treatment. That is still not possible, and you cannot completely stop aging, but you can slow down aging considerably. Common diseases due to aging, we treat aging, so I've already covered that. So this even includes cancer. Okay, so all age-related diseases, including cancer, if you are able to slow down the disease, slow down aging, you will be able to prevent those diseases from coming into your body for a much longer time. For example, if a cancer, say a cancer is supposed to happen somewhere in the fifth decade of life, say 50 or 60. Now, if you were to institute aging, anti-aging or slowing down aging therapy at the age of 20, by the time you're 50, your body would actually be only like a 35-year-old. So you will not get the cancer till another 15 years. So your chronological age, instead of getting a cancer at 50, you may get it at 70, which means you've already gained 20 years of life. So that is what I'm trying to say. So what is basically aging? It is loss of information. Now, I have to, qualify this statement. Next, please. Next. So basically what happens, as we discussed, everything is coded in the DNA and in the genes. Okay. So you know already that adenosine, thymine, all that ATCG of DNA is the digital coding of whatever is the person's health, right? That is the digital coding. And the epigenome, that is the surrounding area in the body around the DNA, is what is called as the analog coding. Okay, so digital and analog. And this epigenome is stored in the chromatin, which is in the nucleus of every cell. So what does this information do? That means the information which is stored and coded in the DNA and in the analog form in the epigenome, which is stored in the chromatin, what does it do? It controls many things. It starts with the control of how the embryo, that is the, when the egg and the sperm meet and then it forms an embryo from inside the uterus, it controls the development of the embryo. It allows the genes to switch networks which are responsible for various functions in the body. It does chemical modification to pack a lot of proteins within the DNA. Epigenome orchestrates assembly of newborn from a single fertilized egg. It also instructs newly formed cells what type of cell they should be. As you know, you must have heard the term stem cell. So what is a stem cell? A stem cell is a baby cell which can get converted into any kind of cell, which means, for example, you have got a nervous tissue in which there is a neuron. You have got a blood cell, which is a RBC. Now, the cell originally is the stem cell. It gets converted into a neuron when it goes into a nerve, and it gets converted into an RBC when it goes into the blood. Okay. So these stem cells, where they should go and what they should do and how they should function. That means the nerves, it should get converted to a neuron and then it should function like a nerve. All this is controlled by the epigenome. So the epigenome controls all this. That means the digital coding is the basic code which is there inside every cell in the DNA. But with the help of this code, how is it utilized into converting different cells into what they are ultimately going to do in the body and their function, and then controlling that function is done by the analog part, which is stored in the chromatin or in the epigenome. Next slide. So if the genome was the computer, then epigenome is the software which runs the computer. You already know about, the cloning which was done, I think in the early 2000s when a sheep was made from one single cell of another sheep. I forget the name of that sheep, but that cloning was opposed for doing it in humans. That means we still have not produced any human clones, but lot of clones are now produced. For example, if your pet dies or about to die, you can take cells from the pet and clone and get another pet made. This is possible now in the United States. Okay, made to order pet or a pet which you don't want to lose. So your pet is dying, you can take the cells from the pet and clone another pet like that. Or where you want to, produce some a certain type of animal for research in the laboratory, it can be done by cloning, right? Because certain types of animals are, for example, you have these guinea pigs. Guinea pig, it's one type of small animal, so it is very good for research. Now, if suppose there's a shortage, you could produce more guinea pigs by cloning for research, which are copies. It's like a Xerox copy of the original. Like you make a Xerox copy of the certificate, cloning is like making a copy of the original, but it is developed from a single cell. So if you want to become young again, what we need to do is to recover the lost information. So in cloning research, what has been found is that cells retain their youthful digital information even when the original person becomes old. For example, if I were to clone myself, I am old, but the cells that are there in my body retain the information when I was young. With those cells, I can make a younger version of myself in the form of a clone, theoretically. So if that is possible, it means that by some other method other than cloning, if we were to recover that information which is there inside our cells, then we could probably become young again. This is again theoretical, okay? But this is the information theory of aging. So if you were to consider that in the aging is like a computer which is getting outdated and it has got some software in it, and you now want to shift the software into a newer model, okay, and become young again, that is possible. That is what it means, that all the information which is there in the DNA and the epigenome is there in our cells in a youthful fashion. So if you want to be youthful again, you can recover this information and use it to become youthful. This is the theory. So what is the important part in this? What is it that you can use to recover this information to become youthful? It is the longevity genes. So there are genes around 220 pairs of genes which have been identified in the human genome, which are responsible or can be utilized if you want to try or do the research in either slowing down aging, stopping aging, or reversing aging. These 20 genes which have been identified, if you can stimulate those genes by some method, that is by altering the epigenome in some way to stimulate the genes, then theoretically it is possible either to slow down aging, reverse aging, or stop aging. This is what it means. So the bottom line or the take-home message is that the information theory of aging states that all the information about us is in the DNA, coded in the ATGC code, and in the epigenome in the chromatin. This information over a period of time is lost because of aging. But a copy of this is always there in the backup, just like you backup files in the computer. If you can stimulate longevity genes and get that information back and retrieve it, it is then possible to make manipulate the biological speed with which the aging happens, and you could either slow down, stop, or reverse it. Next slide. Now, what is the reason why we age? The first is that basically it is the damage to the DNA. So there are changes in the epigenome. For example, smoking. By smoking, you're increasing toxins in the epigenome. They will cause cracks in the DNA. Then the DNA will go into repair mode. And if it goes into repair mode, then it doesn't grow and it doesn't reproduce. What we want is that the DNA should go on reproducing baby cells, new cells. As the old cells die, new cells have to reproduce. But if the original cell is only trying to repair itself, it is not able to reproduce. If it is not able to reproduce, then over a period of time, you get a large number of damaged but repaired DNA cells, which are not reproducing. And that, when it grows to a large number of damaged, repaired DNA cells, leads to aging. So if you have younger cells, which are coming again and again, and if there are less number of DNA repaired cells or old cells, then you can become youthful again. Okay. So what happens when the DNA damages? There is attrition of telomeres. Now, what is telomere? Every gene has got a cap which protects it. It's got a protective cap. When there is a crack in the DNA, the telomere is broken. And when that happens, when it repairs again, the telomere becomes shortened. So shortening of the DNA telomere tells that you are aging. So when I said that it is possible to know the biological age of a person by doing the DNA study, this is what I meant. If the telomeres are long, it means the biological age is less. If the telomeres are short, and there are lots of cells with DNA where the telomeres are short, it means your biological age is more than your chronological age. Next slide. Then I already told you this, that there are alterations in epigenome. Like anything, you are exposed to bad air. Like for example, in Delhi, the quality of air is so poor that if you go out and breathe, it will definitely affect your cells, because those toxins will go and affect your DNA. So when that is affected, the genes will shut off certain processes, certain, repairing, production of proteins or something like that. It could even induce some to say, genes to start a cancer, right? So loss of proteostasis, that means the loss of healthy protein. Okay. So these epigenomic changes due to your diet, due to stress, due to your lifestyle, lack of sleep, lack of exercise, any toxins you take in, any drugs you use, etc., all cause DNA damage, attrition of telomeres, loss of proteins, metabolic changes with deregulation in nutrient sensitivity, mitochondrial dysfunction, the accumulation of old cells, which are also called zombie cells, exhaustion of the stem cells, which can multiply into other or get converted into new types of other cells, altered intracellular communication and production of inflammatory molecules. Again, take home message in this is that the epigenome controls the DNA. If the epigenome is altered, it will alter or bring about changes in the DNA, and then the cell will not be able to reproduce and it will get into repair mode. Okay. What are these changes? I've already enumerated them. So we have around 24 longevity genes in our genome. I'm going to discuss only 3 or 4 of them, which are the most commonly utilized in research. They prolong life and make it healthier. So the bottom line is, if you can in some way stimulate the longevity genes in your genome, then you will be able to slow down aging, because you will be able to maintain the telomere, you will be able to restrict the DNA damage, you will be able to restrict the production of inflammation, you will be able to restrict the amount of dead cells in the body or zombie cells, and so on. So the basic thing is that the longevity genes can be stimulated by different ways. Okay, we'll come to that. So what are these? First is called sirtuins, SIRTUINS. These are sirtuin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Out of that, sirtuin 1, 6, and 7, basically they control the epigenome and also are involved in DNA repair. They stabilize the rDNA and prevent the formation of zombie cells. Now, why are they called zombie cells? If you know, these cells, they are youthful, then they go into middle age, and then they become old. Now, when they get old, some of the cells die. All right, so they die. But some of the cells remain half dead. Zombie means half dead. It is neither fully dead nor fully functional. Now, these zombie cells, what is the importance? These zombie cells are troublemakers. They produce certain inflammatory particles or inflammatory, what you call cytokines, which can cause a, various things like atherosclerosis, fibrosis, cancer, and all that. So these zombie cells are not fully dead. A zombie is undead. We call it undead. That means it is dead, but not fully dead. So instead of that, if it is a dead cell, at least it doesn't produce anything. These zombie cells are not useful cells, but they only troublemakers. So you get zombie cells. Okay. So they prevent. So the sirtuin 1, 6, and 7 repair the DNA. stabilize DNA, control the epigenome, and they prevent zombie cells. Sirtuin 3, 4, and 5, they control the mitochondria, which are the most important energy producing particles inside every cell. So they stabilize the mitochondria and help them to produce energy more efficiently. The efficiency of the working of the mitochondria is improved. SIRT2 controls cell division and healthy egg production. So one is sirtuin. This is the most important group of vitality genes or longevity genes. Next slide. There are two more. Yes, this is mTOR gene. The mTOR gene is called target of rapamycin in mammals. So the short form is mTOR gene. It is basically a complex of proteins, okay? And it regulates growth and metabolism. Now, it has a double function. In times of stress, it comes under, it does different function, and when everything is fine, it has a different function. So in times of stress, it basically repairs DNA. It again reduces the inflammation caused by zombie cells. And the most important, it digests old protein. Because again, old proteins remaining inside the cells are troublemakers, because those proteins they come in the way of normal functioning of the cell. So those old proteins have to be removed. It's like removing kachra from a house. If kachra is lying around, you'll get flies and mosquitoes and all. So same thing inside the cell. Old proteins need to be removed. Old dead or half dead cells or zombie cells need to be removed. Both are troublemakers. So in times of stress, the mTOR gene helps to do DNA repair and scavenging. When all is fine, it is a driver of cell growth. So mTOR gene works by stimulating cell growth. Next slide. So the next slide is the AMPK. Okay, AMPK, again, it's a metabolic control enzyme. So one is a protein, sirtuin is also an enzyme, and AMPK is a metabolic control enzyme. It responds to low energy levels and produces energy, especially in times of stress or in times of infection. Now, this FOXO3 is a specific gene which has been found in some people who inherit long life. Okay, if you see in their family, everybody will be 85, 90, 95, 100. So these people are lucky because their body has already got a gene called the FOXO3 variant, which turns the body defense against disease and aging. It's already present. Therefore, it is an added advantage over other longevity genes. So these are the 4 commonly researched genes. So again, bottom line, take-home message is that there are certain vitality or longevity genes in our body which help to repair the DNA and to promote cell growth. If we are able to stimulate these genes, then we can definitely slow down aging. Now, we are coming to the things that we can do. Now, this was the theoretical part of aging. What is aging and what is it that we can do to slow down aging? Now, what are the things that we can do to stimulate the longevity genes is what we are now going to come to. This is what is the main part which you should take home and try it on yourself, and maybe you will be able to live longer. Now, what is hormesis? Hormesis means, next slide. Hormesis is a characteristic of biological process where you expose the body in small incremental amounts of a substance so that the body is able to develop resistance to it, and then therefore in developing a resistance to it, it becomes stronger. The commonest example of hormesis is vaccine. अगर आप कोविड का वैक्सीन, जो कोविड का जो वायरस है, उसको वीक करके आपके बॉडी में डाल देते हैं, तो वो जो वायरस है आपके बॉडी का इम्यून मैकेनिज्म को एक्टिवेट करके वो वायरस के अगेंस्ट एंटीबॉडीज तैयार करता है. जब अगले टाइम आपको कोविड के जर्म्स आपके बॉडी में आएंगे तो वो एंटीबॉडीज उसको अटैक करके उसको नाश करेंगे. इसको बोलते हैं हॉर्मेसिस. सो एनीथिंग विच इज गिवन in a particularly measured amount, some stress on the body. For example, when you do bodybuilding, what are you doing? आप वजन लेके ऊपर नीचे करते हैं. उससे क्या होता है, आपका जो मसल है आप उसको एक कंट्रोल्ड अमाउंट ऑफ स्ट्रेस डाल रहे हैं. रोज आप अगर समझो एक डंबल उठाते 3 kg का 50-100 टाइम, तो आपका कुछ दिन के बाद आपका जो बाइसेप्स है, जो ये मसल जिसके ऊपर आप स्ट्रेस डाल रहे थे, वो बड़ा होगा और स्ट्रांग होगा, बराबर है ना? सो दैट इज कॉल्ड हॉर्मेसिस. हॉर्मेसिस मीन्स कोई भी स्ट्रेस छोटे छोटे इंक्रीमेंटल क्वांटिटीज में अगर आप बॉडी के ऊपर डालते हो तो बॉडी उसका रिस्पॉन्स पॉजिटिव आता है. यू आर एबल टू डेवलप ए रेजिस्टेंस टू इन्फेक्शन और यू आर एबल टू डेवलप द ओवरऑल हेल्थ ऑफ योर बॉडी if you expose the body to small quantity of regulated stress. This is what is hormesis. And this theory is utilized to stimulate the vitality genes also. Just like you want to build up your body by doing exercise, or you want to do something else like vaccination for developing resistance to infection, you can develop you can stimulate the vitality genes by doing certain things in a regulated fashion over a period of time, so that the body's vitality genes get stimulated and your aging will get slowed down. This is what it means. So within the hormetic zone, biological response to low exposure to toxins and other stresses is favorable. The basic survival capacity of humans depends on its homeostatic ability, stress and adaptive hormetic response, and biological benefits, which is what I told already. So repetitive, this is important. Repetitive, both the words are important. Repetitive, mild stress exposure has an anti-aging response. This is the take-home message of this part, that repetitive, mild stress exposure has anti-aging response. Next slide. So how can we live longer? Now here, I'm going to first only highlight all the things that can be done, and then we're going to talk about each of them in little details. First is supplements and medications. Second is caloric restriction. Now, calorie restriction is otherwise also known as intermittent fasting. Okay. Third is high intensity interval training or exercise. Fourth is exposure to cold. Fifth is breathing techniques or pranayam. Sixth is meditation. And seventh is certain specific diet, food which you need to have and food which you need to avoid. Okay. So supplements. What are the two types of supplements? One sec, just go back please. There are two types. One is the sirtuin activating compounds and NAD booster. Now, if you remember, in the mitochondria of the cell, I told you that they are producing energy. So whenever the food gets converted into energy, you need NAD, nicotine amide diphosphate. So the glucose which is converted into glucose, fat which is converted into fatty acids, protein which is converted into amino acids, at the cellular level, when it gets converted into ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is a molecule which is ultimately giving energy at the microscopic level to the body, this needs NAD. Now, if you take some supplements which will boost the level of NAD, then it means that energy conversion in the mitochondria will be more efficient. So it will stimulate those vitality genes which work through the mTOR or the APMK pathway, because that is what it does. It boosts the level of NAD and converts energy more efficiently. Next slide. Next slide. We'll go into the next slide because this is repeated there. So now let us do, how does meditation, breathing and cold exposure basically work at the cellular level? So if you take the life cycle of any cell, at youth, it is a young cell. Over a period of time, DNA gets broken down. This leads to the instability in the genes. This leads to the disruption of the DNA and the breakage of the gene. This leads to the regulation by the epigenome, which tries to repair this. Then it becomes loss of identity. That means, as I told you, the stem cells become neuron, it becomes blood cell, it becomes muscle cell. So when it loses, so when it gets damaged, it loses its identity, gets converted into a zombie cell. Then that leads to disease and finally death. So this is the life cycle. Youth, broken DNA, genome instability, disruption of DNA, then conversion into a zombie cell, disease and death. Okay. Now, when it gets converted into loss of identity, that is also the beginning of a cancer. So how do you, what is at a cellular level, what is a cancer? A cancer is a tumor of cells which have lost their identity. That means they are only growing at a very rapid rate, but they do not have any function. So if you have a nerve cell, it will conduct the, nerves may conduction of the stimuli. If it's a muscle cell, it will work to contract the muscle. If it's a RBC, it will, do oxygen transfer in the blood. But if the cell has lost its identity, it loses its function. All it does is keep growing. So basically, a cancer is a rapidly growing mass of cells which do not have any identity. And because of that, as they occupy more and more part of an organ, obviously the organ will not be able to do the function for which it is meant to, because all the cells are now only growing and not doing anything else. Got it? So it is basically a zombie cell which is growing very fast into more zombie cells. Deep breathing with breath holding. How does this work? By holding the oxygen level, you're putting stress on the body, okay, to activate the longevity genes. And it helps to repair DNA breaks. So if you do pranayam or any breath holding technique like the Wim Hof method, which I do, Wim Hof method of trading, it is there on the Google. You can go and find out. Wim Hof breathing technique is very good, which is derived from pranayam only. It is another form of pranayam, but it is a breath holding type of pranayam. Okay. So you could either do deep breathing in the form of pranayam, or you could do a pranayam where you do breath holding. Both of them will put a limited stress on the body by causing hypoxia. That means when you hold your breath, you're denying your body of oxygen. So if you can hold longer, the stress will be longer. So that will stimulate those genes in your body if you do it every day for a period of time, right? Meditation and relaxation. As we all know, yoga and meditation help to basically reduce stress. By reducing the stress, they reduce the secretion of stress hormones like steroids. This will, what it does, that means stress releases steroids, which leads to excessive DNA breaks, conversion into zombie cells, and aging. So it hastens aging. That means it fastens the biological age. It increases the biological age. By doing meditation and relaxation, what it does is it completely shuts down all those stress hormones in the body. And as a result of that, blood pressure, diabetes, weight, everything comes under control, because they are all related to release of hormones. Diabetes is related to insulin resistance, which goes away with meditation. Blood pressure is related to excessive levels of adrenaline in the body. Again, with relaxation, that gets reduced. Steroids act on both blood pressure and diabetes. It will reduce, and therefore, once it reduces over a period of time, the important thing is whatever you do, you have to do every day for a long period of time. Once your body gets used to that, it will automatically start slowing down the aging process. It's not that you do it one day and then you think that, but if you do it continuously, you will start finding a difference within 1 month. Within 1 month, you will start finding a difference in your overall health. Okay. Cold exposure. Again, the same thing. What you're doing is having a hot water bath and then completely cold water bath. Or you're going in a sauna and then going into cold water, or going into, in the cold winter, you're going and jumping in the swimming in a swimming pool with cold water. So cold exposure works the same way. It shocks your body. It gives you a shock, okay, temperature shock, which suddenly stimulates all the protective mechanisms, including the vitality genes, right? So deep breathing, breath holding, meditation, and cold exposure this is the way they do. All of them, bottom line is this: they shock the system, the body system, into stimulating the genes. But the important thing is you must do it over a period of time and do not stop after 1 or 2 days. Now, the most important thing, which has been maximum researched, is intermittent fasting. So what is intermittent fasting? Is you do not eat anything for a long period of time. So you keep your body fasting. So the easiest way to do intermittent fasting is to eat before 7 o'clock at night, and then do not eat anything till 11 o'clock in the morning. That means what you need to do is just skip breakfast. It is the easiest thing to do. Okay. And I am doing it since a long time. You stop eating as early as possible. Even 6 o'clock is good. So if 6 o'clock to morning, 6 o'clock, 12 hours, and then 10 o'clock. So you have to delay your breakfast after 10. So the window between 10 and 6 or maybe 11 and 7 is when you can eat, right? But the remaining time you can only drink water, green tea or black coffee. You cannot eat anything which contains sugar or milk. You cannot have coffee with milk and sugar. You can have black coffee, you can have green tea, or you can have water, right? You must keep yourself hydrated with water, but otherwise don't eat anything. For the first 2 weeks, you will have little hunger pangs. Over a period of 3 weeks, your body will completely get used to it. And after that, you will not feel hungry. This is the easiest thing you can do. And it is the most, what will have maximum dramatic effect on all the metabolic syndrome. That means if you have insulin resistance, if you have pre-diabetes, if you have diabetes, if you have a weight problem, if you have blood pressure, all these things will get corrected, which indirectly will improve your biological age, which indirectly will improve aging or slow down aging. Now, what is autophagy? Intermittent fasting brings about autophagy. Autophagy is, again, cellular cleansing. So, as you know, because of all the toxins in the epigenome, always there are dead cells, dead proteins in our body. So, the scavenging of these cells is very important. It is the intermittent fasting hastens the scavenging of the cells. So there is autophagy, means all the cells are cleaned out. It's like removing kachra. You know, you take your laptop and one day take a toothbrush, old toothbrush, and clean everything in between the keypad. You'll find so much dust has accumulated. Or you take it and clean some, with the, some crevices in this, like that, where a lot of dirt accumulates. Normally it doesn't get dusted, but when you do what you call Diwalika cleaning, or cleaning once in 3 months, 4 months, which in detail cleaning you do, you'll find. So that kind of cleaning is done in autophagy in the body. It rids the body of all dead tissue earlier than if you are eating 4 times a day. Then, because you are restricting sugar for 16-hour period, the body goes into survival mode, which means it starts burning the fat in your body. Got it? So so normally you've got what is called as the Krebs cycle, which is the aerobic cycle, where normally food is digested by and converted into ATP. But when you deny the body glucose for a long period of time, then the body goes into an anaerobic metabolism, or what is called as a ketotic cycle, where the body, the fats are get converted into ketones, and the ketones is what the body will use for converting into energy, because glucose is the best to give energy and it's the easiest. So normally what you do is, if you eat glucose and fat, then the glucose will be burnt and the fat will get stored in your body, and you will become fat. But if you deny the body any glucose or reduce the glucose for a period of time, then the fat which is already stored in your body is used by the body to give energy, with the result that over a period of time, the fat in the body gets burnt and the fat content of your body comes down, which directly affects your health, right? Weight loss. Obviously, if there is fat burning, it will over a period of time lead to weight loss, because there are 24 hours. If out of that 16 hours you don't eat anything, automatically you are going to restrict the calories in that 8-hour period. It's not that you can go on eating every minute of that 8 hours, right? In that 8 hours also, you're going to have 1 or 2 meals at the most, right? So by restricting calories, you're restricting the amount of food that you're taking in. So over a period of time, it will cause weight loss as well. This will reduce the pressure on the heart and diabetes and blood pressure. Recycling of NAD and increases the serotonin, stimulating compounds, all right? So it stimulates the sirtuins, right? And also the recycling of NAD happens. mTOR inhibition happens. So mTOR inhibition leads to DNA repair and reduction of inflammation. And it reduces the core temperature of the body. So whatever exposure to cold you get, that benefit also you get. So summarizing, intermittent fasting can be of 3 types. You can fast for between 16 to 20 hours. Second, you can do a weekend fast for 36 to 48 hours where you only take water. Third, you can do a 7-day water-only fast every 3 to 6 months. How does it work? It brings about cellular cleansing, fat burning, weight loss, and mTOR inhibition and stimulation of sirtuins, and also reduces the core temperature of the body. So the thing which you can do right from tomorrow is start with intermittent fasting. It is the single easy thing to do, and I'm sure that all of you will succeed if you put your mind to it. Okay, and that way even you don't have to eat anything special. If you eat a normal food but reduce the quantity, like what the principle what these Japanese people say, 80%. Fill your stomach 80%, which is what Stan said last time. Fill your stomach 80%. Don't overfill your stomach. Whenever you eat less quantity than what you would normally eat, and eat less number of times. If you do this, one single thing will have a large impact on most of your, slowing down your age as well as your overall health. Now, high intensity interval training. Now, what does this mean? What it means is that you must do an exercise for anything between 10 to 20 minutes or maybe 30 minutes, but do it so much that you have become breathless and you are not able to speak. You should become breathless. That is the whole idea. So you can walk fast on a treadmill or walk on a road, or you can do skipping, or you can jump up and down, or you can swim. Whatever you do, it should be short period, high intensity, which means that your heart rate should go up and your respiratory rate should go up to 80% of your heart rate, and you should become short of breath. That is important. You should not be able to speak or only speak 1 or 2 words. Like if when you suddenly climb a flight of stairs, you climb 3-4 flights of stairs, that also you can do. If you are using the lift, don't use the lift, just walk up. If you're staying on the 4th or 5th floor, by the time you reach there, you'll be breathless. That is what is required. You should become breathless. Okay, so high intensity interval training is something you can do instead of going by bus or by car. Walk to work. Instead of using the lift, climb up and down. Every time you go up, you'll exercise. Now, this also stimulates in a big way longevity genes. It stimulates in a big way as much as intermittent fasting. This high intensity interval training, and you need not do it more than 3 to 5 times a week. And for 30 minutes, it's enough. You don't have to do every day, but high intensity interval training should be done 3 to 5 times a week for 30 minutes. But important thing is you should become breathless when you do the exercise. It should be that intense. All right. So again, the same. It stimulates longevity genes. It boosts mitochondria. It extends the telomeres of the DNA, and it improves the microvasculature. That is very important. So it improves oxygen to tissues, and it raises the NAD levels. Next slide. Next slide, please. Now, we come to supplements. Now, there are 2 things. One is supplements and there is medication. In supplements, we have got 2 basic categories. One is the sirtuin activating compounds, or STAC, STAC. These stimulate the survival circuit, and in this, you have got what last time we said, in red wine, you get resveratrol, fisetin, butane, quercetin, and NMN. Okay, these are the medicines, or not medicine, but supplements which act by stimulating sirtuin. Right? Resveratrol is the most commonly used among this. The other is NMN, and then is quercetin. These are available on Amazon. Okay, I've already found. So you get combination of quercetin and resveratrol and NMN. You get it in one capsule, or you get it as separate. So NMN is nicotinamide mononucleotide. So what is NMN? NMN is a derivative of vitamin B3 or niacin. So it is nicotinamide mononucleotide and nicotinamide riboside. So niacin gets converted into nicotinamide riboside, which gets converted into nicotinamide mononucleotide, which boosts the NAD levels. Okay. So vitamin B3 is the cheapest available. You can buy vitamin B3, which is niacin, which you can take, or you can take NMN, which is also not very expensive. So NMN is available on Amazon. Combination of resveratrol and quercetin is also available on Amazon. So if you take a combination of resveratrol, quercetin, and NMN, you would be taking the NAD booster as well as the sirtuin activating compound. So NAD booster acts by increasing the NAD level in the body. Okay, so it therefore helps to convert the energy efficiency in the mitochondria. And also NAD boosters help to reduce kidney damage, neurodegenerative disease, and mitochondrial diseases. You can also take vitamin D3 and vitamin K2. So a combination of resveratrol with quercetin, NMN, and vitamin D3. These three things can be easily taken every day by people who are interested in slowing down their age, along with intermittent fasting and some form of exercise, which is high intensity and about for 20 to 30 minutes, around 3 to 5 times a week, whatever your body allows. Please do not try to overdo it. Now, what is the medications that can be taken? Those who are pre-diabetic and diabetic should definitely take metformin if it is not already in your medication. Okay, metformin. But even people are taking metformin even if they are not diabetic, because it helps in reducing, or it helps in slowing down aging. So metformin is basically acts by mTOR inhibition. It improves ovarian function in ladies, and those with pre-diabetes and diabetes, it helps to reduce the blood sugar. So what does it do, metformin, in diabetes? What it does is it reduces the glucose that is coming from the liver, and therefore it also helps to reduce fatty liver. Now, fatty liver is a very common diagnosis today. If you do ultrasound, many people, they get a report of fatty liver, which is again a sign of insulin resistance and pre-diabetes. All right, even if your blood sugar is normal, but if you have fatty liver, and if your triglycerides and LDL are high, not HDL, not cholesterol, triglyceride and LDL. So triglyceride and cholesterol being high, fatty liver on ultrasound, any of these two, even if your blood sugar is not high or you're not pre-diabetic, you have to assume that you have insulin resistance and pre-diabetes. Therefore, there you could take even metformin as a form of medication. Now, it is controversial whether if you do not have anything, you should take metformin or not. The people who are engaged in the study of this aging, they all take metformin. Their friends take metformin, their parents, children are all taking metformin. As far as safety is concerned, metformin is a very safe drug. A very small percentage of people do get certain effects of metformin, which is called lactic acidosis. So you should ask your doctor always for whether you should take metformin or not. It is an individual decision. But if you are diabetic or pre-diabetic, or if you have insulin resistance in the form of raised triglycerides, raised LDL, and low HDL, that means the HDL to triglyceride ratio is low. So you have good cholesterol is low, bad cholesterol is more, then you can take metformin. It is known to reverse that as well, because it helps to reduce the blood sugar, it helps reduce fatty liver, and it also helps fertility in women because it improves ovarian function. The second drug is low dose aspirin, which I have been taking over last 18 years. I don't have any problem, no heart disease, no diabetes, no blood pressure, but I've been taking low dose aspirin. It is about 1 to 1.5 milligram per kg body weight. That means I take 150 milligrams. Most people can take 75 milligrams every day. Now, in addition to preventing heart disease, it also prevents cancer and different types of cancer. It is known to be, useful in breast cancer, colon cancer, head, face, neck cancer, prostate cancer, and a variety of others, as much as by 25 to 30%. And this, many studies have shown that it improves the serious heart ailments by 24 to 24%. And as you know, anybody, once they have a heart attack or they have an angioplasty or a bypass, they're put on lifelong aspirin. Okay. So summarizing, if you want to slow down aging, you must do regular meditation or some form of pranayam or deep breathing for at least 10 minutes. You must do meditation for at least about 20 minutes. You must do some form of exposure to cold, which means have a hot water shower and then immediately turn to cold water, or go for a cold water swim or whatever. Then you must have some form of high intensity short exercise, which can be done at least 3 to 5 times a week for about 20 to 30 minutes. Most important, you can do any form of intermittent fasting. You can take supplements like NMN, which is a derivative of vitamin D3, which is very safe. Resveratrol and quercetin, which is available. You want to take that, you can take that in addition. Must take a small dose of vitamin D3 every day or once a week. And if you want, at least I am taking low dose aspirin every day. Metformin remains a query. If you feel that you want to take with the help of your doctor's involvement, you should take it. Especially if you are overweight, especially if you are pre-diabetic, or if you are having deranged lipids in your blood report. So all these things do not cost a lot of money, but what they need, what they do is definitely over a period of time will slow down aging in your case. And overall, it will improve your health and lifestyle disease. Now, what is in the future? Let us have a peek in the future. The first thing is bio-tracking. We all wear these kind of devices here. These devices which map your heart rate, blood pressure, ECG, how many steps you take, all that. Now, this will go one step further. What it will do is it will map your genome in real time. A wearable device. You can wear it just like what you're wearing now, and it will map your genome. And based on your genome, it will calculate what kind of food, what kind of exercise, how much sleep, etc. you need at any time of the day. At any time of the day. Further, it will also, like, Google says the nearest coffee shop is over here, the nearest this. It will tell you the nearest restaurant or the nearest gym, which will have that kind of food, that kind of exercise available to you. Okay. So what it will do is it will go one step further. Instead of just telling you your heart rate and blood pressure and blood sugar, it will map at the DNA level and tell you exactly what you need to do at any time of the day. Second, it will detect a medical emergency before it is serious, because it is mapping your heart rate. So if it goes into an arrhythmia, it will tell you that you are going to have an emergency, or even a smallest heart attack or a slight change in the heart, which may indicate a heart rate. It will automatically connect it to the nearest hospital, which will send an ambulance and nurse with medicines, right? Because it is tracking you at the DNA level. So this bio-tracking will become one step further, and it will also have AI, that is artificial intelligence and machine learning. So it will generate so much of data all the time. When you're wearing it 24/7, it will generate data and it will improve on its own. It will learn to improve. Not only that, it will keep all your records on a cloud. It will keep the records. So if the physician wants to draw कि last 10 दिन में आपका heart rate क्या था, आपका ECG क्या था, आपका ये क्या था, वो क्या था, it will show those records. So imagine that you will be able to reach the emergency before the emergency happens, and you will be there in the right place at the right time as the emergency happens. And in most cases, it will be avoidable. Okay, so this could be a wearable or even an implantable device. That means a small surgery and implant it somewhere in your neck or in your forearm or some place. They will implant a device which will do all this, right? So this is the future of bio-tracking, and this is going to happen in our lifetimes. In the next 5-6 years, it is going to happen. Cancer detection and focused treatment. Now, what happens today is that we are treating cancer in a very old-fashioned way, okay? Because we are not detecting at a DNA level what the tumor is doing. We are detecting at a histological level, at a cellular level. We are not entering the cell and seeing the DNA. But now what will happen is there will be devices which will detect genetic signature of cancer. And therefore, it will be able to detect cancer even before it becomes a tumor. Because when there is an alteration in the DNA because of the epigenome, which is the starting point of a cancer, that means it is starting at the cell level, it is yet to become a tumor. At that level itself, the cancer will get detected. And because it is detected at that level, it will be treatable also at that level. So blood test will scan for cell-free DNA. Cell-free DNA is like your any other blood test which will be able to detect a cancer. Not only that, it will tell you at a DNA level what is the type of cancer and how to kill that cancer. So again, the treatment will be individually focused to that person for that individual tumor and what stage of that tumor, individual. Over here, what we do, all stage 1, all stage 2, all stage 3. It is at a gross and macroscopic level. This will become now focused at a microscopic level. Then CAR T-cell therapy. Here, a gene will be added to your body, which will allow the cells to bind to proteins of the tumor. It will then identify it and kill it using the body's immune cells. So what CAR T-cell therapy means, you add a gene into your bloodstream, which will stimulate, the T cells, and it will go and get attached to the tumor, and it will kind of, like a magnet, it will attract the T cells to the tumor. So only those tumor cells will get killed. Got it? Those T cells will not kill anything else. It will only get attracted like a magnet only to that T cell, because the T cell, this gene will go and get attached to the tumor. And so it will also stimulate the T cells to go and kill the tumor. So it will be a focused therapy without side effects. Last is immuno-oncology approach. Here, drugs are used to block the cancer cell's ability to evade detection by killer T cells. So it is like somebody who's trying to, pass as an immigrant with a false passport. So the immigration person is able to detect the false passport, and it is able to stop that illegal immigrant from entering the country. So here what happens, the cancer cells also try to evade the killer T cells in the body by kind of changing their genetic makeup or whatever, and they try to hide from the killer T cells. So if you give the drug to them, which will unmask this, that means whatever they are doing, they are trying, unmask these cancer cells, the natural killer T cells which are there in our immune system will be able to kill the cancer cells. So both these CAR T cell therapy and immuno-oncology approach are basically to allow the T cells to give focused treatment to those cancer cells which are at a level of just starting a cancer. And the other two, that is the blood test and the genetic signature of cancer being detected by different devices, is to detect this at a very early stage. Next slide. Transplantation. Today that there is a huge shortage of organs. Genetic manipulation will be able to develop xenograft. Means we can grow organ in a pig, and as per the DNA of the patient. So suppose somebody wants a heart and a kidney, you can grow with the help of xenograft in the pig for that DNA of that patient. Made to order kidney, made to order lung, made to order heart can be grown in that pig, and then that organ can be harvested and implanted. So what will happen? No shortage of organs and no need of immunosuppression, because when you put an organ of somebody else in a body, the person who receives the organ needs to suppress the immunity by taking medicines all his life, and that always has side effects, because when you are suppressed, you're immunosuppressed, other infections can hurt you. You can develop tuberculosis, you can get other infections. A lot of people, for example, in COVID, those who are immune suppressed, they died because their immunity could not fight COVID. So like that, any new infection comes, you are always vulnerable. So here what will happen is, because you don't need any DNA, you don't need immunosuppression, because it is matching DNA to DNA, the organ which is harvested from a pig will be available to the patient. So made to order organs. Then cloning, you could make a clone of a person and use that clone only for harvesting organs for that person, right? Of course, today it is not allowed, but in the future it will be, because organ deficiency is so high and the transplant lists are so long that some kind of solution would have to be found to get rid of this shortage. 3D printers could print out organs for individual patients. So this is the future of transplantation. Again, when I'm talking future, it is not way in the future, it's in the next 1 to 2 decades. Say by 2050, we should be able to see all this, maybe. So those people who are teenagers today, it will be in their lifetime. Now, if these things are available, obviously, people will be able to grow. I mean, people will be able to live longer, because there are a lot of advances which today what is not treatable becomes treatable. And therefore, from that angle also, life expectancy will improve, right? Vaccinations. Vaccines could be developed against all common diseases. Right now, we have got certain, but we don't have against malaria, dengue, all bacterial infection, fungal infection. So, what is now causing a lot of people to undergo, dengue ho gaya, infection ho gaya, fungal infection, all these will be treated with vaccination at birth. So, people will not have these illnesses only. They will only have lifestyle diseases which will be controlled by stimulating genes. And if in spite of that they have organ failure, they will also be able to have organs which will be transplanted. So if you combine all this, you can understand that, we have good times to come, and life expectancy as it is going to go up. But as of now, what you can do, I've already told you that how you can improve the longevity by stimulating your longevity genes through diet, exercise. A word about diet. I forgot to tell you. See, what needs to avoided is carbohydrates. Okay, bread, sweets, sugar as much as possible. And what needs to be taken is lot of vegetables and less protein. So more of vegetables, nuts, and fruits, and maybe fruits which are not very sweet, like apple, pear, these kind of fruits, rather than mango or maybe mango or chiku or banana, those kind of fruits. So that is about the diet, exercise, sleep, meditation, pranayam, and exercise, and then supplements. Some kind of supplementation will help, and some kind of medication like aspirin, definitely you can take. Metformin, of course, you have to ask your physician. So in conclusion, aging is a disease, therefore it can be treated. Since aging is a cause of most lifestyle diseases as well as cancer, if you treat aging, you're also treating all of them. Next slide. Next line. So the average lifespan with all this, if you were to institute this in your early 20s and 30s, definitely you will be able to increase at least 15 to 20 years of life as it is. And as you grow, understand one thing, as you grow older, the technology will keep on improving. So when you need the technology, that will be available to you if you live longer, which will then allow you to live even more longer. You understand? Technology is going at a certain pace. So if you're able to live and match your lifespan with the technology will then further extend your life, because there will be treatment which at, say, 20 years before were not available. But because you lived 20 years longer, now they are available, which gives you another 20 years. So right now, it is only the slowing of aging that we can do. And this is already being practiced by a lot of people. There is no formal evidence or there is no formal paper in any medical journal on humans. Plenty of evidence is there on other animals and worms and things like that, where it has been demonstrated that aging can be slowed down. Not reversed, but slowed down. Right? But if in future we were to reverse aging, then it will make humans immortal. Working years will be extended beyond 85. And it will be common in a family to have great-grandchildren, right? But what happens if we become immortal? Next slide. Humans will react to this. How will they react to this? Like now, will they overcrowd, destroy Earth, or will they find new habitable planet to spread the Homo sapien race? So this is a thought for you all, that there is a downside to aging, because the Earth has a limited number of people. I mean, it can accommodate only a limited number of people. But if we were to become immortal, then the Earth will get overcrowded, and at some stage we'll have to find a habitable planet where people can go and live. So with this, I conclude my talk. Thank you very much for a very patient hearing.